Hi. Welcome to my channel. Today we are discussing the movie called Memories of Murder, which was released in 2003, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Now, let's start the video.
Nice! Good idea!
The story starts with a man traveling in a tractor. He is Detective Park, who believes he can know criminals just by looking at them with his eyes. He reaches the canal where the dead body of the woman was seen, and he looks into it. The body was left there and was about to be rotten. Then, he starts interrogating the suspects who are closer to the victim. Soon another dead body of a woman is found with the footprints of the culprit. Unfortunately, a tractor destroys the footprints before the arrival of the forensic team. Detective Park is now home with his wife. His wife gives him an information. She heard a rumor that a little bit retarded boy named Kwang Ho used to follow the woman, who was recently killed. He was even seen following the woman during the day she was killed. Detective Park goes to find the boy, and drags him to the interrogation room. Later, another detective Cho Young-koo arrives and start kicking the boy. Detective Cho seems a short-tempered officer, who only knows the language of violence. Next day, a new man seems entering the district. He was actually a new Detective Seo, who was from Seoul. Girl seems frightened, while she thinks she is being followed by him, and falls down the road. Detective Park arrives and gives his flying drop kick to the man. Later, he finds he is a detective too. Detective Park now makes a fake footprints from the shoes of Kwang Ho. Detective Park is now trying to frame up Kwang Ho, and convinces the shoes belongs to him. He also makes him memorize the fake confession of the murder. He takes him to the forest and records it, but Kwang Ho ends up adding extra informations. On the other hand, Detective Seo researches all the available reports. Next day, every officers seem happy as they make the world believe they have solved the case. But Detective Seo believes those weak hands of Kwang Ho could never kill a person. It is time for reenactment, showing how murder was done. But the officer's plan fails as Kwang Ho denies the crime. The investigation team is reshuffled with the new Sergeant Shin Dong-chul. Detective Park presents the progress of the investigation.
12월 16일. 12월 16일.
His presentation seems a complete chaos. So, Sergeant goes to crime spot himself to check. Now, Detective Seo gives an information that all the murders happened during the rainy night. And all the murdered woman was wearing red dress. He also mentioned there must be another murder and the dead body is yet to be found. After few days of searching, they finds an woman's dead body as expected. On another rainy night, one female officer Kwan, wears red dress and walks on empty road. It was actually bait for the murderer, to catch him in the action, but the murderer doesn't seem to be there. At the same time, an woman is walking alone near the factory area. She feels the presence of a person, and gets attacked by someone. Next day, her body is found. This time with the footprints that lead to the factory. Female officer Kwan gives them an important information, that every rainy night when the murders happened, a same song is played every time in an evening radio show. The song was requested by a lonely man through a postcard. Its title was Sad Letter. And since they can't find a single pubic hair on the dead body, Detective Park thinks the rapist might be bald from down and keeps searching such men with his eyes. Detective Seo goes to find the postcard in the radio station but can't find it. While Park goes to Shaman to find the culprit. Detective Park is now doing the ritual where the dead body was found. Suddenly Detective Seo also arrives there. Suddenly a strange man also arrives there and start masturbating on women's undergarments. He is chased by detectives to the factory and is hard to find. But Detective Park finds the man as he was wearing women's underwear. Now he is in the custody. He says he was doing it just because kids are at home and air in the woods are nice. And ran away because he was panicked. He mentions that a rumor of the killer living in the school outhouse. So Detective Seo goes to the school outhouse and finds a woman. She says it is just a rumor, but she mentions a woman who kept crying on the hill house. Detective Seo goes to the house and finds a woman who got scared and hides inside. After interrogation, it is found that she was one of the victim and who survived luckily. She says, every details that are mentioned in the articles, killer did exactly same thing to her. Unfortunately, she didn't see the face of the killer, but she feels his hands were as soft as women's. Detective Seo checks the hand of the previous suspects and realized he is not the killer. And he is freed. So Detective Park gets angry and fight breaks between two. Officer Kwon stops them and makes them listen the song that is broadcasting in the radio. It is the same song and it is raining as well. So they hurry to ask for state emergency notice and ask men for support. Unfortunately, they got no men for help. Next day, another dead woman's body is found. At the moment, Detective Park realizes he has been doing wrong all this time. They get a call from Officer Kwon and she finds the postcard requesting the song. It was from a man named Park Kyung-gyu. So they finds the man's address and finds the man at the factory. They takes him to interrogation. Detectives were partially convinced that he was the real killer they were searching for. The man agrees for the postcard and song request to the radio. His hand seems soft as well, but he denies the crime and claims he is innocent. Detectives ask where he was at the night, then he claims he was at home listening to the radio. So detectives ask what was the last song played on the radio. But he forgets the last song that was played. Detective Seo tries to lead him to confess the crime but he still denies it all. So without any strong evidence he is now released. Detectives seem disappointed but remember the recording of Kwang Ho. Kwang Ho had added informations how crime happened. So they realized Kwang Ho could be the witness who saw the face of the killer. They goes to find him. Suddenly fight breaks in the restaurant. And he runs away. Detectives get him and ask if the killer was the one in the picture. But Kwang Ho cannot answer and runs again. And sadly he dies by getting hit by a train. Another day, they found the semen from the clothes from the dead woman. Doctor claims it must be the killer's semen. So detective sends the semen to United States, to test its DNA with Park Kyung-gyu. While Park Kyung-gyu is being watched by Detective Seo, but he lost him. Same night the killer gets his next victim. In the morning, they find a body of young schoolgirl. It is the saddest death. Detective Seo lost his temper and goes to Park Kyung-gyu's house and starts beating him. He even points his gun at him. Detective Park comes running with the result. The test result of DNA does not seem as they expected. The result concludes the DNA does not match with Park Kyung-gyu. This is the moment where Seo thinks opposite of his ideology about documents that it never lies. He thinks the document is a lie. He even tries to shoot Park Kyung-gyu. But Detective Park stops it. Detective Park asks him to look into his eyes. It can be the last time he looks into someone with his eyes, to find the criminal. But it doesn't make sense to him now. Then he makes him leave. But Detective Seo shoots his gun and Detective Park stops him. After a decade, Detective Park is in his home with his children. He seems to have left his job, long ago and moved to city. One day he returns to the same place, where it all began. He looks into the canal. A schoolgirl comes and asks what he is looking. She mentions a man who was looking in the same canal while ago, who said he remembers something doing here, a long time ago. He asks what he looked like. She answers, his face looked like plain and ordinary. This moment Park looked straight the screen for a few seconds. His eyes were mixed with every emotions he could have felt. People believe that he might be provoking the real killer, with his guilt, who could be looking at him, at the moment.